the fact that he would just consistently make it to the Super Bowl every year made me want to, I don't know, punch the air, man. Like I'd just be so mad all the time. Like I just want to see a new team in the Super Bowl.
If you are.
Sure.
All
yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. Let me introduce someone that you wouldn't want to mess with outside the club, on the football field, or in the pit. My good friend, Reid McMorris. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me on here, man. I watched many episodes, and it's pretty cool to get a shot to be on here. So
definitely, and Reid is a longtime friend, kind of through Vancouver hardcore, but also Winnipeg hardcore, and we'll definitely touch on some of those. For the few folks at home that might not know who you are, can you give me a proper introduction on how you're known in the music community and where you're based?
Sure. I'm in a band currently called Burn Away. We're from BC, generally the Vancouver area. Most of the band is a former Vancouver band called Wasted Breath. They had their run here for a while. So my brother actually was in that band, and I was out in Winnipeg playing football on scholarship, had a pretty cool gig out there. And we were always talking, we share a lot of interest in music, and we were always talking about having a band we'd play in together. So everything kind of finally worked out. I just graduated university in April, moved back home, and we'd already kind of had things going, but from a distance, we weren't able to get things going fully. And now that I'm back, we fully anticipated for this summer to be like pretty sweet, do a couple tours, and then COVID hit and it all kind of went, off the rails. But that's pretty much it for me in that aspect. We got this
and we're definitely going to be chatting about kind of the transitionary period and the early beginnings, and definitely talking about your football career as well. Before we get super into it, though, got to do the bev check portion of this podcast. I'm gonna let you go first because you brought two when it's normally just one. But tell me what you got on your end.
So I didn't go crazy today, but got the cherry bubbly, crucial, and an orange bubbly. So pretty burly guy, man. I got to stay hydrated. So start with the cherry.
So you're team bubbly, kind of. It looks like with the.
I would say so, but I don't know if I'm really partial to any sparkling water. I'll get after any of them. They're all fair game. So
yeah, that's fair. I think that there's certain bubbly flavors that people have told me to give the time of day. I think black cherry is the number one pick, but I think that might just be an American thing because I haven't seen it up here in some of the Canadian spots.
No, I don't think I've seen black cherry. Blackberry I've seen, but I don't think black cherry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I, gun to my head, if I had to pick one sparkling water forever, it's definitely AHA, but that seems to be harder to find nowadays. So
I have had those. Those slap.
Yeah,
those slap
definitely.
for sure.
So I think any good bev checker I think needs to do going out into uncharted territory with certain bevs. So I've never had this, but it's called a Vimto or something. It looks like a fizzy grape drink, but at least what caught my eye was it's a mixed up blends of grapes, raspberries, and black currants. And black currants is for me like that's an interesting flavor that I want to go down. So I've only had a couple bevs that I've checked here on the podcast that afterwards I'm like, yep, that's never seen the light of day again. So we'll have to see where this one goes.
Yeah, here's the hoping.
Yeah, it's definitely fizzy. But cheers to you, my friend. I'm very excited to be chatting with you.
Cheers, man.
So obviously you've listened and watched a couple of these, so you kind of know the flow of how we like to get things going. Give me kind of the origin story for heavy music for you. Take me back in time, tell me some of those formative records, and we'll start there.
Sure. So out the gates, always listen to a little bit of heavier music. Can definitely credit my mom for that. She's big into hair metal and stuff. So and some Metallica and stuff like that. So it always kind of transitioned like that for me. So I'd say the first few albums that really got me going on heavier music would be Meteora by Linkin Park for sure. Like die hard for that record. When I was my grade 5 school picture for the year, I was wearing like a Meteora cover shirt and I had bleached blonde hair. So it fit it very well.
Nice.
Um, so that was probably the first one that really drew me into heavier music. I guess maybe that would probably be for the more metal stuff. I was a huge Billy Talent fan too. As a young kid, like when I was like probably I don't know 9 or 10, I got like Billy Talent self-titled. I saw the album cover at Future Shop and I thought it was sweet, so I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like still pretty relatively heavier punk band at that point, so like that to me was like pretty mind-blowing, all the screams and stuff. I'm like, man, this is sweet. So
Yeah,
that was
definitely
those were
for
probably the two that
any of the American listeners who have no idea who Billy Talent was. I think it's kind of maybe this is too much credit to them, but they're kind of like the Blink 182 of Canada in a sense. Oh, your cat's coming and making a
yeah,
noise.
sorry, he's crashing the party.
No,
Sorry.
that's all good. But yeah, I remember specifically it was like Sum 41 and Billy Talent were
Yeah,
like the two like Old and New Testament that I was reading all growing up. So
totally. Yeah, Sum 41, absolutely. That's another one that's pretty formative, I think, for a lot of people in our realm of music as kids, if they're in our general age group.
yeah,
Like Sum 41, Billy Talent, like Il Nino, a few other bands like that were
yep.
kind of in that realm, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, I still think, some of the earlier stuff off the first Billy Talent album, like even thinking about like Try Honesty, Devil in a Midnight
yeah,
Mass. Um it was also I think the drum beat in is it Red Flag where it's like do do da da do
yeah,
do like
yeah.
anybody in my class that could do that, like at that consistency, I was just like, "Oh, you're one of the best drummers I know," or whatever.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's probably where it started. I think as things kind of went on too, the kind of defining moment for heavier music for me would be like 2007 getting on YouTube. I remember, um, there was like a few bands that were a little heavier, like metalcore stuff that I was listening to back then. I liked Kill Switch Engage from a pretty young age, and to this day, like one of my favorite bands
Mhm.
for sure. But I remember the first like real heavy band that like blew my mind that I like had no idea what to think of was Job for a Cowboy.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, just seeing their like really early music videos there. Like Entombment of a Machine, that one was like viral because it had the big pig squeal in the beginning. But I remember like listening to that. I'm like, man, this is so cool. I've never heard anything like this before. Like it's so much heavier and like it was just like kind of definitive for me. And not to say that I was ever super far down the deathcore rabbit hole or anything, but like that song in particular like really stood out for getting me into heavier stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
So
crazy like how I don't think a lot of people realize, especially maybe our generation on how influential finding like breakdown compilation videos on
oh
YouTube
yeah, for
or
sure.
just going through an actually like good algorithm as far as like you watch a Slipknot music video and then you get Disturbed as Lay Dying, like it's
Yes,
properly
yes, yeah.
recommended versus like you watch one band music video now and now it's all of their music videos. So
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, it definitely played a huge part for me as well, so that's really cool to hear. um so
Yeah.
let's fast forward a little bit. So like you said, you're doing vocals in a band, a newer band, as far as
Yeah.
I guess the overall runtime of things, but called Burn Away, which is kind of like the phoenix that kind of grew out of Wasted Breath. So talk to me about how, obviously your brother Mason is playing in that as well. So was that just kind of like, hey, I want to be in a band with my brother and asked you, or you just were asking him to start a new project? Tell me kind of how the birth of that came to be.
Sure. So basically even during Wasted Breath's tenure, we kind of discussed doing like kind of an offshoot band ourselves, just something on the side for fun. Wanted to be really heavy, kind of dumb music. And to be fair, I don't know that that's necessarily what we're doing now. I think it's kind of grew into something a little bit more serious. But yeah, we kind of discussed it, and I'm not necessarily musically proficient at all. That's something I'm working on, but for the time being, it's not nothing's there. But I guess I had the ability to do the vocals, so we talked about it for a while, and it all kind of came to fruition last year. Kind of assembled the band. Um, we got a great group of guys right now. A little bit of a lineup shift. So obviously Jack, our drummer, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mason's playing guitar. Connor Elms is playing bass, or sorry, Connor Elms is playing guitar too, and then we have a new bassist, Devin. So that's the lineup now. We've shifted things around a little bit, and it's turned out to be a really really great lineup. Just a great group, and yeah, it's been cool, man. Like we didn't really weren't really sure what to expect with it, but I think as things kind of go on, we're gonna be able to morph into kind of our own sound and identity. And I think once shows come back, we'll be able to show what the kind of energy we can bring to it. So I'm pretty stoked.
Definitely. So, and excuse me, if I'm getting some of these things mixed up, but you guys dropped the first kind of release, which was a World Laid Bare, and then
That's right. Yeah,
that was at the end of last year, so 2019, and then you guys played your
that was yeah, it was like summer last year. It came
right,
out in end of July.
yeah,
So we've only played one show because I was back from university in
right,
December to January. So we played the first show in early January, and it was great. It was sweet, and we're like, okay, we've kind of laid groundwork. Like it was pretty well received.
hmm,
People were going pretty crazy to our set, so
right,
we were stoked, man. Like we thought we had something good going. We're like, okay, like moving back in April. This summer, like we're fully planning on maybe doing a tour through Western Canada, like get the ball rolling, kind of make things happen. And then COVID comes along, and I understand it derailed it for everybody. So I'm not trying to, look for sympathy in it, but it's just kind of unfortunate, right? It's just kind of a bummer because we are just getting things off the ground.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's very it's it's kind of like that. What's that? That meme from the Eric Andre show with Hannibal Buress, and he's like laughing, and then he's like, "This shit sucks," and it's like that
yeah,
is
yeah,
seeing anything related to COVID right now. Like you see someone who had posted something like 2020 is gonna be my year, like this band, we're gonna do
yeah.
all these cool shit, and like nah nah nah. Like
Not
but
happening.
yeah, so but it is cool to kind of see how people have taken like no music, like any genre has been able to have a break of this long. So for a band to
Totally,
either write either a concept record or just do something that they've never done before or do a collab, it is really cool to see those things. I think we are getting, I think anyone listening is getting to that point where it's like the anticipation of live music and shows is at a all-time high. And
for sure.
yeah. So just tell me about the first show that you guys did in January. Just like, you know, I would see you at a plethora of shows, moshing and going off to bands. But
Yeah,
I'm always I always like to hear someone's like first time when they're like, okay, I'm on the other side of it, and especially
yeah.
when you hold the mic, like you have to, command the room and like set the tone to a degree. So talk to me about that first time for you.
Sure. So yeah, like you said, I've been a pretty avid show goer for about 3.5 years now. I'm relatively new to the hardcore scene. I was into metalcore and stuff, but I wasn't a big show goer. So my brother kind of brought me out. So yeah, I've been, I'd say a pretty regular mainstay at most local shows wherever I'm at in Winnipeg or Vancouver. So um, pretty familiar with the setting, but it is definitely a big change being on stage. It was a pretty good show. We had a little venue in New Westminster called Bullies. Cool venue for sure. Pretty cramped, but it's fun. So we were kind of mid bill on this. So the first couple bands set things off pretty hard. So we were like, man, we gotta like throw together something pretty good here. Everyone before us has had a killer set. So um, getting on stage for the first time was, we had jammed quite a bit, so we were familiar with the music. There's no slip ups on that end, but it was just kind of interesting being like actually on stage. So for the first little bit, I had to catch my breath and like, yeah, it's all good, just like nothing, nothing else. So yeah, just kind of calmed the nerves a little bit and just went to town. And I think by the second song, I was kind of in this headspace I needed to be at, getting a little more active on stage and stuff. And
Hmm.
I think, for the first show, it actually went really well. I was pretty happy with how it went. It seemed pretty well received. Like I said, people were kind of going off. You see the videos, there's a lot of moshing and stuff. So like to me, that's what I'm here for, man.
Yeah, definitely need to shout out Adam for filming those sets at that show because shit hit the fan and I couldn't make it out. So
Yeah, yeah.
he rocked the camera for that. So mad shout out to Adam. But yeah, it is always interesting because if you are, if it's your first show and you're playing guitar, bass, drums, all those parts of the band are very important. Everyone's got like the one part where it cuts out and it's just guitar, just bass. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
vocal side of things, it seems like all the attention, people are looking at the band, but a lot of the time when the vocals kick in, it's like the focus is on you. So
Totally, yeah.
but kind of like you said, like once you got into the groove of it, you're like, oh, like okay, I just you get into a zone and then it just flies by so fast.
For sure, yeah.
Right.
The only thing like that show in particular, it was just tough because wasn't really able to hear myself at all. Like there wasn't like a good setup in there for being able to hear myself. So I'm like, I don't even know if anyone can hear me right now. Like I
Right.
was super unfamiliar with the process, but yeah, it was honestly I thought it was a blast. It couldn't have been I don't think it could have went much better for a first show. We were all super stoked with how it came out, and I think we're whenever we get the chance to, I think we'll show, we'll be pretty fine tuned, some new music, a little bit of a stylistic change in some of our music. So
Yeah,
like I think it's gonna be really fun.
do you want to tell me some of those things? Because yeah, as of right now, you guys just had 3 songs that I have listened to on constant rotation as far as just having that like heavy like caveman like style of
Yeah,
hardcore, like dipping your toes into maybe something around the beat down space. But tell me what you guys are
yeah,
have coming up. We talked
yeah,
off air about when this podcast might drop around something, but yeah.
yeah, sure. So we're just in the final stages of getting some mastering on our next release. We're just dropping some new songs. As far as like stylistic stuff, I think we were probably made things a little bit more intricate. Maybe like I personally like worked on my vocals a fair amount and changed it up a little bit. Not so much grunty death metal-y kind of stuff. It's a little more in the metalcore realm. So that's kind of where I want to lean with it. I think you can only do so much in the previous release. Like it's kind of limited. So we changed things up a little bit like that. So I think our new stuff's pretty sweet, man. I think people are really gonna enjoy it. It's got some pretty interesting vibes. Definitely a little bit probably leans a little more towards the metalcore side of things because we're, in that heavier, slowed down, death metal-y, beat downy kind of realm before. And it's not like we still have parts like that for sure, but it's gonna be a different variety. So I'm
Right.
just really stoked for everyone to get to hear it. I think it's gonna be cool. I hope it's well received. I think it will be. So
Yeah, I think always kind of planning out the next step of a release, so it's not just like a constant left turn. I've talked about that
yeah,
on the podcast with a number of different guests, but just talking about like, all right, here was the first release, and then the next thing is a branch off. So exploring and doing different things, but never feeling like, oh, these guys went into an entirely different band
yeah.
without warning. So
Yeah, for sure. So I think it'll be a cool change. I'm actually really interested to see how people respond to it because
do you
I mean,
Do you have a
sorry, go ahead.
specific date set, or is it just kind of waiting until the masters and then uploading it to Spotify and blah blah blah?
Yeah, I would say probably mid-December
Okay.
is kind of where we're gunning for that. I don't want to say a specific date in case anything gets pushed around, but as it stands right now, we're kind of looking mid-December, so pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
real soon here.
as far as the time of recording this podcast, and I'll, my smart marketing brain will just put this podcast out probably the day of, the day after, or the day before. So
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
that is very sick. All recorded by you guys, because I know Jack being, not only a
Yeah,
phenomenal drummer, but also really good in the studio recording aspect of things as well.
yeah. That's all Jack, man. He's on the ball. He's only getting better and better, and he's already was already a pretty outstanding outstanding in that field. So like he's killing it, man. He's killing it for sure. So I think
Definitely.
the sound's gonna be huge. I'm really stoked for it. So
Yeah, no, and I'm excited because like I think the thing that always gets me I guess like puts more gas in the tank as far as just like Western Canada or like any genre, or not genre, but scene of music, is when new bands come to the limelight, and it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like so many good songs. And just like it's also cool for me specifically to see bands with a lineup that isn't just like, it's all these bigger bands that made a side project with one other new
Yeah.
person, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like I always liked
Yeah. No, for sure.
seeing, it seemed like any band that I was starting was having either people who were like brand new to hardcore, quote unquote, or like
Yeah.
it was their first band. So, it's really
Yeah.
cool to see that, especially for yourself.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. It's honestly, I can only say thank you to the guys who kind of brought me in. My brother, Connor, Jack. Like they kind of have guided me through the process as it's new to me. So yeah, definitely owe them a big thank you, because it's yeah, it's honestly been a cool experience. No matter where it goes, I'm pretty grateful for it. So
Yeah. So I so we're gonna transition into some I guess some stories, because I think you and I are good enough friends, so I could like ask you some more funny questions, and I'm sure you're open to me
yeah,
talking about them. If
yeah,
anyone
absolutely.
if anyone has watched any Wild Rose 2018 videos on the Scope channel, you might have seen Reid in the mosh pit with a very eye-catching sun hat. And so can you tell me, or give context to the listeners about how that came to be? Because I look back at those photos and videos, and I'm just like,
They're
I
hilarious.
smile. Just yeah, so it's too funny. So yeah, tell me the story on how the sun hat came into the picture.
Sure. So we're in Calgary for Wild Rose. It was myself, Adam Parrish, and my brother driving around. We had some time to kill during the day before any shows came on, so we went to like Cross Iron Mills, like the big outlet mall in Calgary.
Right.
We're walking around, and we went into I think it was Cabela's. It's walking around some real Alberta shit. So we're we're walking around there, and we were playing odds the whole trip. So losing odds, and it was pretty fun. So the odds that I ended up losing was, I had to wear this like $5 clearance rack sun hat for the entire night of shows. If I lost, surely enough, I lost. So was rocking this big greasy hat on top of my head and moshing pretty hard to some bands. So I can only imagine seeing what other people who didn't know me were thinking when they saw my gigantic ass
Yeah.
cruising around there with a big hat on. So
It looks like this tree trunk with like Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator sunglasses, and then this
yeah,
hat.
yeah,
And you're like,
yeah. That was
who is this guy? But like obviously most of the homies are like, oh yeah, we know.
yeah.
Who even challenged you to odds? Like who got
I
the
think
best
that
of
I
you?
think that was my brother. I think that was Mason. I'm fairly certain. So
Yeah, Mason's
yeah,
like, that was me.
yeah. No, that was him. He got me. So I'll have to own that one. I thought
Yeah,
it was pretty funny. That hat is actually still hung up in my dad's garage. We had to make sure it
to
doesn't get
preserve
thrown out
it.
anytime soon. It's got good memories. So
Yeah,
we're
it's
holding on
it's
to that
one
one.
thing to archive it on video or photos, but it's another thing to keep the actual things.
Yeah.
I'm having flashbacks to when Cam from These Streets was talking about how he threw cookie sheets into a mosh pit, and he like brought it out, and like all the bands had signed it. So I was like, oh, I hope he has the hat. But yeah, we might have to do a part 2 in the future with the sun
Yeah.
hat.
I'll bring the hat for sure.
Was there any
I got it
other
locked and
like
loaded.
odds that happened on that weekend that maybe weren't as obvious through maybe the scope videos or stuff that you wanna that were just funny to share?
Um, I don't know that there's anything like anyone had to wear anything ridiculous. I know that Adam lost quite a few odds. I wouldn't remember what they were because they were relatively inspecific ones. But like our rule of thumb is if you don't adhere to the odds rules, you have to take a open hand slap to the belly.
Oh
So
yeah, I think that's just
yeah, yeah.
across the board
The gen
knowledge.
the general rule of thumb there. So Adam lost a few, and by the end of it, he had about a half-inch raised hand slap mark on his gut. So yeah, he got quite a beat down from it. I gave him a couple. Mason gave him a couple.
I'm
We're
kind of
both big guys with big hands, so they
right.
slapped him around pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure like people are like they get home to their, whoever they're staying with for a fest and they're like, "All right, these bruises or whatever are from punches during this band, but these slaps are
Yeah,
from, you know."
yeah, exactly.
Have you seen I'm blanking on his name, but there's a have you watched those professional slapping competitions?
Oh yeah, yeah. Are you talking like the one like Charlie, like Critical, the YouTuber
I
does? He
I
like
think that's
profiles
him
those
where
ones?
he'll just like
Yeah,
he'll just slap someone and they're just like on the ground like unconscious.
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
fun.
there's it's like super big in Russia, man. The Russians are crazy for the slapping things. There's one guy who's like the goat, Vasily Komotsky. He's like a 6'1", like 340-pound man, and he just has the hands of God. Like he'll knock people out with slaps. And if you
That's
ever need
amazing.
entertainment, man, just YouTube Vasily Komotsky knockouts because he'll put people to sleep with these things. It's
I think
hilarious.
if we are thinking of the same person, it's funny because yeah, he is a bigger dude. He'll just kind of line it up, like not even
Yeah,
like epically. He'll just kind of like, and then just boom, and it feels like
yeah,
the room shakes when
yeah,
when the
for sure.
contact happens. And
Yeah, it seems to be Russians are crazy, man. They're on a different level for sure.
yeah, it is.
They're on
It
a
is.
different
It
level.
is funny to be in a world where there are all these like sports, like unofficially big sports for things that
Yeah,
maybe aren't even sports related, like slap competitions, like people that fly drones professionally and they're like all
yeah,
just flying all over the place. So yeah, it is
yeah.
it
It's
is cool
it's
to have
crazy.
access to all those through like things like the internet.
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
Um
Absolutely.
so I also wanted to talk to you, and this will have some crossover with hardcore as well. But for anyone that knows you, you played, football pretty not. I guess like I don't know if there's a way of saying it where it's like professional is if you're in like the NFL or the CFL, but like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were
That would
playing for the
generally.
University of Manitoba, and you were going
Yeah,
like pretty hard. So
yeah.
tell me about like has sports kind of always been in your life and then you got drafted and how coming from Vancouver to Winnipeg because that's how we met. So yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about the origin of that and then we can break down some of the finer details.
Sure. Yeah. So, let's give you kind of a quick run through. Like I played football since I was 10. Absolutely terrible till I was 16. Like worst player on my team, kind of thing. I was very fortunate to have a huge growth spurt in high school. So by grade 12, by grade 12 I was like 6'4", pretty big guy, and ended up kind of coming through for football. And I was gonna stop playing after high school. Was kind of just over it. Wasn't sure if I was gonna pursue it at all. Had a little bit of university interest, but didn't pursue it. Um, got basically dragged out to a junior camp by one of the coaches. He wouldn't let me say no to playing. So when I played junior, switched into the position I played the higher level offensive line. Ended up being pretty good at it. So played junior football in Chilliwack, BC. Ended up getting after my 1 year junior, a lot of university interest. There's like 26 schools that play university in Canada from like UBC and Vancouver all the way to the East Coast. There's 26 schools. And like I had interest from like 18 of them. So like was considered like, a pretty decent prospect. I was young and a big kid.
Right.
Had had a bit of a mean streak when I played football, so it was good.
Yeah.
Had a lot of options and ended up had a few friends that went to the University of Manitoba. They were recruiting me, offered me a scholarship, and just kind of on a whim I decided it was worth a chance to try something new. I don't know that if I wouldn't have left for Winnipeg I would have ended up doing too much. I was kind of working a dead end job, not doing very much going on. So yeah, I ended up taking that offer and ended up being pretty cool, man. It was had a pretty big shift throughout football there. Like I went there when I was like pretty out of shape, 320-pound guy. And then by my last couple of years, I was down about 40, 35 pounds playing at that weight and had a pretty good career there. Ended up being a captain for my last 2 years. Got an opportunity in the CFL. Didn't end up really panning out for me. I had some interest after my last year to go to some camps, but my body was kind of beat up. I had already started to lose a lot of weight and I was just kind of over it. But it was definitely one of the best experiences I could have ever had. I really appreciate the opportunity I had there. So
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that
it took me out somewhere new, right? I got to get outside of my comfort zone, live in a whole other province halfway across the country. Like it was cool. I really can't say enough about it.
yeah, and it is always, funny on how, yeah, you had a lot of interest across the board, but it was Winnipeg to go the extra mile to offer a scholarship, and that, like, we wouldn't be doing this podcast probably if you didn't show
Yeah.
up in Winnipeg, and who
No,
knows,
no chance.
where you would be in hardcore as well, because I know that was kind of a
Yeah,
pivotal thing.
it was. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I wanted to ask, maybe this is a selfish question because I grew up in Winnipeg, but I think about my wife who grew up in Alberta, and then she got a scholarship. Was it a scholarship? No, it wasn't a scholarship, but she got headhunted to go play soccer and basketball in Outerburn, Manitoba, and
Okay.
and that's how we met and got married and blah blah blah. But she tells, we always talk about it on how you never being to Manitoba, and you're surrounded by mountains and all these beautiful parts
Yeah,
of the country, and then you hit Winnipeg and it's just flat, and driving out to
flat.
this 40 minutes to this rinky dink town, and and she was telling me the first day, she was like, did I make the biggest mistake of my life coming here? So what was that kind
Yeah,
of like, you were in Winnipeg for a number of years, so tell me about
yeah,
how that transition was for you, being kind of born and raised in the BC area.
yeah, for sure. So I ended up going out there first of all for a spring camp. They do that kind of early May. It's more or less like a prospect camp where they have a bunch of kids trying out, and then they'll bring in a few of the guys that they've already signed to kind of see how they play. So went out for that, and it was. I got lucky enough. It was how May can be such an unpredictable month. It can either be freezing or relatively warm in Manitoba.
Yep.
The first May that I went there was pretty warm, so I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. That's all good, whatever. So went back to BC for a couple months, and then moved out permanently in August. Um, and August in Manitoba is super warm, so I'm like, okay, this is fine. Nothing that I'm not used to. The only thing that kind of sucked was grow up around the mountains and ocean and everything. It's a big transition to go to a flat, cold prairie place. But I didn't mind it. But the first winter, like it started tapering off. That year, my first year, we were like a really really good team. Went to the national semifinals. So obviously, the longer you stay in playoffs, the longer you're outside practicing. So we're practicing until mid-November in Winnipeg, which is pretty damn cold, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that was a big transition for me. We're practicing like the last week of practice since we had two outside where they were like -20.
Yeah.
So I had never even been
Yeah.
outside or anything like that. You're outside for 2 hours, so like you're bundled up, you got everything on you, you're still freezing to death. So uh, that winter in particular, after the season ended, was pretty cold. So I'd never really faced anything like that living on the West Coast, where the coldest day you get is going to be -1, right?
Right.
So yeah, we had a few weeks where it was pretty steadily going down towards -40, -45, and then you throw the wind chill in there, and it's real cold. So that was quite a transition. But like anything else, you get used to it. You become pretty accustomed to the temperature and whatnot, and what you have to do to stay warm. But
Yeah.
yeah, it ended up being fine, man. I honestly couldn't say enough about Winnipeg. I love that city. It'll always be my second home. I have so many close friends and memories there. So yeah, as much as I would complain sometimes about how I missed BC, like I being back here now, I miss Winnipeg dearly. It's a great city with a lot to offer. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think, like, on paper, there's a lot of things where people are like, okay, there's a Canadian major city in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's not like a ton of like cities to connect, especially for like touring routes
yeah.
and things like that.
Oh, totally. There's nothing.
There's not like mountains to go hike to. Like, I would say probably the pro on the nature side is Manitoba as a whole has a ton more lakes. That's a huge thing that I
Yeah,
miss
yeah,
being in Alberta, where there's next to
totally. Yeah,
none. But yeah, there
yeah,
is. Yeah, I think on paper there's a lot of things of like, this doesn't make sense. Why would I go here? But I think if you give it a shot,
for
like,
sure.
Winnipeg's got an insane food culture and scene. There's
Oh, it's
like
so good, man.
there's so much cool stuff there. It's like a really old city, so there's tons of like really cool architecture and things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so obviously, I want to, even though I live in Alberta, and I love being in the mountains, like, I praise that, part of my life quite highly. And like you said, like, even though I'm here, I think about a lot of things that I get to miss out on a daily basis. So
Totally. Yeah. It's I will say this, like moving back here, I figured it was going to be a lot easier than it was. I didn't think I'd miss Winnipeg as much as I do because it's honestly there's just so much to offer there. And the thing that you just can't really compare anywhere else is just how friendly people are. You know, the slogan's friendly Manitoba, and it sounds corny or whatever, but it is true. It really is. People
Yeah.
in Winnipeg are just generally pretty nice, wholesome people, you know? So that's something I will definitely vouch for.
Yeah, definitely. So to kind of transition back to some of the football stuff. So you had mentioned that I kind of, your whole kind of your process of that, like there was some potentials for some CFL interest, but things kind of
Yeah.
didn't pan out. Can you talk about some of those things, or I don't know if you're like,
Yeah. No,
have a
totally. That's
sworn to
totally fine.
secrecy.
Oh no secrecy at all. So the process is your second last after your second last year of eligibility, you go if you're invited, you go to a CFO Combine. So I went to that in Edmonton in 2019. Yeah, March of 2019 in Edmonton. You basically go through the whole trials. They put you through, it's like sprint test, jump test, bench press, and then you do. So basically, they're testing your athleticism, seeing your strength if you came prepared, and then the second half you strap on the pads and you go against other guys, and it's like a pretty big, more or less like a brawl. Like I played offensive line, so my objective is to basically if my offense is running the ball, I need to go ahead and push someone out of the way so my running back can get through. If the quarterback's passing the ball, I got to make sure he doesn't get hit. So what my process was is at the combine, you do one-on-ones against the defensive lineman. So basically, I have to like hold the guy back, and these are all guys who are obviously pretty elite university players. So I was splitting reps for sure. You win some, you lose some because these guys are pretty legit. But
Right.
I didn't end up getting drafted after that. So you go to the combine, and then 2 months later, there's a draft. There was a lot of talks. I had potential to get drafted. Didn't end up getting drafted. It's whatever. So I went back and played my final year, 2019. Had a great season. It was honestly couldn't have asked for a better team. We had a pretty good run, and then as soon as the season ended, I made a highlight tape, and my coaches would tell me there was 3 or 4 CFL teams that were interested in me to bring to a camp, try me out, kind of thing. There's no guarantees, of course. That just
Right.
means you're basically getting a shot. But basically, the day the season ended, I was just beat up, sore, and I kind of just went on a weight loss bender. I was weighing about 290, and I dropped down to 250 in like a month and a half. Lost like
Oh
40
wow.
pounds.
Damn.
Yeah, well, it's just hard on the joints, and I'd been big for so long. I was kind of ready to just almost honestly just kind of ready to pack it in. Like I played for so long. The CFL, there's no guarantees. You don't make a ton of money. Like I was just kind of at the point where I'm like, I've had a good career. Like this is enough for me. I'm happy. I got my degree,
Yeah.
played a full season, got to be a captain. Like there wasn't really anything else I was trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
So
No, it is,
yeah,
I can't remember when I first heard this, but like, I think when, you're growing up, it's like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like
yeah,
mildly good at sports. You're like, I'm going to play in the NBA or whatever it is. So, but not realizing like, being a professional sports, athlete
yeah.
of any kind has like a very it you can't do that for your entire life. Like there's
No,
such a
absolutely not.
short actual
Small
career,
window. Yeah,
a small window, like you said. So it's,
yeah,
for me, like I almost never was really like the sporty kind growing up, but
yeah.
at least what I do on like video, it's like I know that I can be 90 years old and still like cutting a
Do
video
your thing,
together.
right?
But yeah,
Yeah,
with sports, it's like it takes such a toll on your body, and you have like, from a team's standpoint, they're thinking about like, okay, this guy is, getting into his late 20s, his
yeah,
career is probably like over if he's playing on a
yeah.
bigger team. So it's kind of like you get these great years, but you can't. It's not a career that you can do for your entire life, which is kind of
No,
shitty.
no. Absolutely, especially NFL players make so much money where if you're that good that you can make the NFL, like you can more or less bank on it if you're good enough that even if you play a couple of years, you're set up for a while.
Right.
CFL is not like that, man. You're not making that kind of money. You're
Right.
making a guy in my position. If I was just a run of the mill player, probably making like 70K a year, which is still respectable money, but like you don't. That's not money you're retiring on, right?
Right.
So if you have
Yeah,
a couple decent years,
it's not one of those things like, am I gonna put all my chips on it when like, I
No,
could go to school
exactly.
for a few years and get a job starting
Where you
kind of
make that
around
right
that.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So there wasn't enough incentive for me to keep on a bunch of weight, keep punishing my body, beating myself up. And not only that, but like, if I go through a camp where I'm going against these guys who are crazy athletes, like I don't want to sustain any more hits to the head and stuff than I already have, right? I want
Yeah.
to try and save the noggin a little bit.
Yeah.
So
This is the most important tool of it all, right? So,
exactly.
yeah.
So that's
Um, are you one of those people that, like when you were in school and doing and playing for the Bisons, were you like, I can't even think about watching just other people play football or, look at football memes, or were you like fully obsessed with that and
no,
still are?
I was in, man. I was in for sure.
For sure.
To this day, man. This is the first year actually where I'm not obviously not playing football anymore. So I've actually got to fully enjoy like the NFL as a spectator. I'm loving it, man. It's
Right.
so nice to actually have the time to watch football games. So
Who's your favorite NFL team?
Cleveland Browns. So
Okay.
previously, past 5 years, basically, if you went to a game, you probably want to wear like a brown paper bag on your head because they're terrible. You don't even want to show your face as a fan. But this year, man, we're 8-3. We're looking good. So pretty
And
happy.
you've been a fan from them even before when they weren't
Yes,
quote
yes,
unquote a
yeah,
good
yeah,
team. Yeah, cool.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Some rough years. Some
Yeah.
rough
Well,
years.
I think that's a big thing. Like I think with Canadians you get a pass because there's the CFL and the NFL, it's a split.
Totally. Yeah,
But
yeah.
being able to, rep a team that is, not
Pretty
maybe
trash.
yeah, but like at the
Yeah,
same time it's not like I just remember, and this is changing sports a little bit, but as soon as the Golden State Warriors became like the team, everyone's like, I'm
yeah,
a Golden State fan.
yeah. G
And
State fan, of course. Yeah,
yeah, so it's like I have respect for people who cheer for a team that had years, if not generations, of like just trash
yeah, yeah,
sporting years. So,
for sure.
to see that climb and to have that hopefulness. It's kind of the same with, the Winnipeg Jets. It's like,
Totally. Yeah.
a long portion of time with, without a team, and then we get a team, and I feel like even that first year where we were like, oh, we got into the playoffs, like if we had won or even got close, it would have felt like a cheap shot in a way, like
Totally.
I want to
Yeah.
have those times where it's like we have bad years, and then like because when we do hit that eventually, it will just feel
It's
that
so
much more
nice. Yeah,
special.
it does. It totally feels that much better.
Yeah. um yeah, do you have a team that you despise, or like an anti Browns team? Not to say
Oh
that,
yeah, man.
yeah,
I
just
hate
for
the
you.
Patriots. I hate the Patriots so much. And the New England Patriots. Listen, I'm not gonna say I'm a Tom Brady hater. I'm not a Tom Brady fan by any means. I respect how good he is, but
Right.
like the fact that he would just consistently make it to the Super Bowl every year made me want to, I don't know, punch the air, man. Like I'd just be so mad all the time. Like I just want to see a new team in the Super Bowl. Like
Right.
just every single playoff run you see him making it so far. You have to respect how good he was and whatnot, and
Yeah.
still is. But
Yeah,
man, I hate the
I think it's
Patriots.
like I hate how good you are. I think that's kind
Yeah,
of the sentiment. Yeah. No, that's
totally.
funny.
Yeah,
Um oh, so you brought up like your highlight reel as far as like your last season, and I watched that this
yeah.
morning. I was just blown away by how like just maniacal some of your takedowns were. So I wanted to ask, what in your opinion, have you seen a worse hit on the field during a game, or even just watching a football game, or have you seen something that was more of a blow at a hardcore show? I'm kind of curious on the scales,
Oh,
if they're equal or not.
uh, I've seen some pretty nasty hits at both for sure. Seen some people get knocked out cold and whatnot, both aspects. Definitely a little bit different, but I don't know, man. I've seen a couple on the field where like hurts your brain to witness. Just seeing someone else get hit so hard, like you feel their pain almost, you know. Just some nasty concussions and stuff. It's a pretty violent sport, right? And when people go head to head with a lot of force, if someone's head is down, like it gets pretty ugly. Not to discredit that people get fucked up at shows sometimes too, but yeah, probably a little bit more on the field. But hey, listen, man, it's gets pretty rowdy in the pit sometimes too.
Yeah, yeah. I think there might be some like, if you take two cars and you like just full speed towards them, that's probably a worser
Yeah,
collision versus someone standing on the side of the pit and then they get a spin kick to
Big
the
shot to
face.
the head or
Like
something.
that's
Yeah.
0 to 100 versus 100 and 100 colliding and
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So there's definitely, it's funny because I was seeing some of because most of the clips on your reel, they'll circle you as far as where you are
Yeah.
because it's from a distance.
Yeah,
And then you can kind of watch. But it's funny, it's like as soon as you guys are lined up and then like the play starts and then you'll like tackle someone and then the play's over. It's almost
Yeah.
like that was like a mini like playing a song, like a power violence like
Yeah.
20-second little thing. Because everyone
Yeah.
like goes nuts and tackles each other, and
And
then
then
it's
it's
like
calm.
yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
calm. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely some comparisons though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. It, I also have noticed, and maybe this is just like because I know you, like I think a lot of people who are of your size as far as like height, but also just like, strength and things like that, like they'll default into just being the, the most brutal person in the pit. But I think for you, like you, I've seen it multiple times where you're like assessing your space, like, okay, I'm too close to this person, I shouldn't swing on them. It's not like I'm the
Yeah,
burliest
for sure.
dude. So,
No,
yeah.
man. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I just want to have fun. I'm not there to knock anybody out or do anything stupid. I just want to have fun. And I have been saying this to my friends though. The first show back from COVID, I'm the safety rails are off, man. I'm going crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
just one time, and then it's out of my system. But yeah,
What's
I made it pretty clear.
what's one band that you're hoping to see once everything goes back that is just gonna be like pitting from the
Just
first note to the
insanity.
last note?
Man, like for local stuff anyway. I heard a little bit of the new Culminate stuff, and that's going to be some skull rattling stuff. Some people are going to be leaving not feeling too hot after some of those sets, I'm sure. So that's for local stuff for sure. But I was pretty bummed about Wild Rose this year. There's a couple bands I was really looking forward to see. Like Never Ending Game would have been pretty crazy. Cauldron's sick. Obviously, it would have been pretty cool to see Knock Loose and Madball. And honestly, the whole bill was pretty elite. That was kind of going to be like I bought like obviously passes, and one of my friends from BC was flying out to Winnipeg, and we were going to carpool with another friend from Winnipeg to Wild Rose this year. That was going to be like it basically was happening like 3 days after my final exam, so it was gonna be like my grad gift to myself. Like, let's go to Wild Rose. Like, I'm celebrating, man. We're gonna have a blast, and then, it is what it is. But those were a couple of the bands there that I was super pumped for, and I think those sets would have been pretty hectic for sure.
Yeah, and I think most festival people are gonna try once the year comes that hardcore shows can come back. I think most of those people are gonna try and see those festival lineups through versus like, oh, let's start from scratch officially.
Totally.
But,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking with Jessa just about like the very first show is just gonna be this like, I think everyone is just looking to have just a really fun show. Not like,
totally, yeah.
Oh, like here's this very serious band or doing these things. Like it's just gonna be like
a celebration party,
100%.
man. It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, the anticipation is real. And yeah, shout out. I want to echo your shout out to Culminate. I've been like greatly anticipating all the newer material that they're working on. So
just wait, man. It's good. It's real good. You'll dig it.
So I got a couple more questions for you here, my friend. What can you explain to me what is @shitfatguys say on Instagram?
Yes, absolutely, I can. That's I don't know if that one has a whole lot of carryover to anyone in hardcore, but if anyone wants to check it out, this was more or less like, well, I played offensive line, so we're the big guys on the field. We're big, rotund, goofy bastards. We're usually, pretty funny guys, O linemen. So we had a rep in the locker room for being pretty goofy, doing goofy stuff. So myself and two other guys who are older in the O-line group, I think we started about probably just shy of 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, an account called Shit Fat Guys Say, and it just documents all the dumb shit we do as big fat guys that have a reasonable sense of humor, our eating habits, and just generally being dumb. So if you want to get a kick out of something, check out at shit fat guy say on Instagram though. I don't know. It's got pretty good reviews. We at our peak, we had a lot of followers. So
Who's reviewing that officially, or you're just saying in
just
general?
yeah. So here's a pretty funny story, real quick. When I was in Winnipeg, I bounced at a bar called Cowboys, and it was all football guys there.
Okay.
Who did the security, and there was like 3 of us who were on that page all the time, and we would regularly have people come up to me and say, "Oh, you guys are the ones who run that Instagram
No
account."
way.
So
No
I mean,
way.
it's a niche crowd in Winnipeg. We had like 500 followers at the peak, but there was the odd person who would see our stuff and follow us, and they'd be like, "Oh,
People
it's you
going to
guys."
Cowboys being like, dude, shit guy
Yeah,
I say is right
yeah,
there. That's
yeah.
so
It
funny.
was so funny.
Um,
Yeah, that account was fun, really fun. We
yeah.
retired it because most of the guys who were on it are all done football now, but
Mm.
it had a good era, and everything's still up there, so you can check it out
Yeah,
for
no,
nostalgic sake.
it's permanently archived on the internet, so that's so funny.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that kind of the common thing when you're going to school and doing sports to kind of have a job that is within that same physical nature, or is that just kind of like is that a
Probably for
stereotype?
the no, I'd say that for the most part. Like the thing that worked for me was like we have such a demanding schedule in the off season and during the season for
Right.
like we have weight training school. And then you just don't have much time during the week to work. So weekends bouncing at bars is kind of the norm. Like I would honestly say probably, I don't know, close to half my team did it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, most bars you go to in the city of Winnipeg, there's some guys and guys bouncing.
Right. Yeah.
kind of
Do you have
kind of the thing.
any go-to bouncing stories that you always tell people?
Oh man, I don't
Or
think I can
there's
really get
probably
into
too
a lot
many.
of them. Yeah. I don't know. I like to think we were a pretty reasonable staff there. We give everyone a chance. We weren't some guys at bars, they bounce there just to go fight. We would break stuff up and be pretty civil, but every once in a while you'd have an all-out brawl, and those are always fun nights because you get into a parking lot brawl with 10 of your friends, and it gets a little crazy, but it was good memories for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it like, would you find that, were you only at Cowboys, or were you kind of bouncing around to different ones, and you would
I was
tell like the different types of people that were coming to those
oh
clubs?
yeah. Definitely a variation. I didn't do too much work. I worked at Cowboys for the most part. Like I ran the security staff there for a couple of years, so I was there for a while, and then we do rooftop downtown. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a downtown patio tavern rooftop in the summer. That was always a fun gig. We do like 2 nights a week there, and it's pretty chill. You're upstairs on a patio. It's nice outside. It's a good job. And then a lot of guys bounce at a tiny little bar in St. Norbert, just south of the city, called the Knob. That's
Oh,
like a Bison staple. So guys are always there. But that's like a tame little bar just outside the city. So
right.
rooftop was pretty tame. But Cowboys is kind of the bar like when you first turn 18, you want to go out and drink. Cowboys is a spot for it. So as you could imagine, a lot of people there aren't super familiar with drinking hard. So they you deal with a lot of people over consuming. But
Right.
yeah, no, it is lots of good memories, lots of bad memories there. I enjoyed that job. It was fun. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun for
no,
sure.
I think like with most jobs like that, there's, this level of like, like you said, there's going to be like bad apples who are just there to like show their force and just slam people on the
Oh
ground.
yeah, totally,
But
totally.
for most of the people, it's like, no, I'm just here to, get my bag and go home safely
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
So no, it
Um,
was a good gig though.
yeah. So Reid, we can kind of start to wrap up the show here, but obviously the last portion or question that I ask all the guests here, and I'm excited to hear your answer, is a favorite mosh story that you would like to share. So it doesn't necessarily need to be something about you. It could be something that you saw at a show that you were attending. Whatever's literally the first thing to your head is kind of
Yeah.
how we end it off.
Maybe I'll just throw a couple real quick ones down.
Sure. Yeah.
I got a pretty funny one. Wild Rose last year. Um, during mortality rates, said it was pretty hectic. They just put out that EP, so they're playing new stuff, and it's all pretty moshy HM2 stuff. So it's fun, right?
Yeah.
So I was going pretty hard, flying around the pit, and I was spinning backwards with my leg up in the air, and I connected with Jose from Serration. Hit him. I thought like what I thought would have probably killed most people because I was going so ham. He like caught it on the shoulder and he just folded me, man, crumpled me. I went flying to the ground. Yeah, he caught me at the right angle. I had one leg off the ground, and I went flying.
Oh, and you just folded like a cheap chair. Yeah, okay. I understand.
No, I went flying. Yeah, I was huge, man. I was like 295 at the time. I was like a pretty big dude, and I got just absolutely folded by Jose. He just caught me at the right thing.
Wow.
But
well, shout out to Jose's shoulders.
Yeah, shout out to Jose. Yeah, he got me good, man.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty funny one. Definitely some pretty good memories. DPK 5-year last year. One of my close friends, Randy. Shout out Randy. Yeah. He came out for his first hardcore show ever, and he was jumping in the pit. Anyone who doesn't know Randy, he's an absolutely menacing, gigantic, bearded guy. So he was going pretty hard at his first show. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I remember. I can't remember which band it was, but there was some Randy chants. I think it was during the pre-show.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, both of those, both great stories, both shows that we were both at. So I'd like to kind of have a little bit of a reference point as well. So Reid, this is the part of the show where you can do some shout outs, plug anything that you want to, send wherever you want to send people after this podcast. The floor is yours for whatever you want to share.
Sure. So like I mentioned earlier, the band I'm in, Burn Away, we're dropping something probably within the next 2 weeks. We're gunning for kind of mid-December for a release. Check it out. I mean, I think if you liked our old stuff, you'll like this. And if you didn't like our old stuff, you might like this too. I don't know. But I think it'd be cool for someone to check out. We're just a local band out here in BC. Definitely some heavier stuff. So really appreciate it if anyone who's in the scene would like to check it out and at least give it the time of day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, another big shout out, check out Jack Thomas on social media if you don't already, because he's gonna be famous very soon. Borderline already famous now. So shout out to Jack because he's killing it. He's a phenomenal drummer with a pretty big social media presence right now. So Jack Thomas, drum on everything. Check him out.
Jack was he was an early guest on the podcast, and he's someone that I have nothing but good things to say about, and is very close to being like, sorry, who are you? I'm too famous. I'm on the A-list. Red carpet shit. But I am very excited to hear the new Burn Away stuff. I think it's been a long time coming for some staple new Vancouver heavy music. So to have you guys kind of be next in line for that is very, very sick. Thank you again, Reid, for coming on the podcast and jamming with me. And definitely go follow Shit Fat Guys Say as well after that.
Yeah, no kidding. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.